Every conflict we face, every moment of confusion, every painful attachment, every twinge of jealousy has a common root. What if the very emotions we often think define our humanity, fear, desire, passion, are not simply feelings, but multipliers of the very struggles we wish to transcend? Today we explore an axiom of light that cuts through illusions, revealing the true nature of our inner turmoil and showing us the path back to clarity. Welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today we continue the series inspired by the book, The Light Within, Journey Through the Axioms of Ashla. I am your host, Justin Gates, and I'm also the author of the book. Today I'm joined by my dear friends, Heather. You can't see her. She's over there somewhere. And my co-host, Michael Perry.
Hey, fam.
So the axiom of light that we're going to be talking about today. Fear, desire, and unchecked passion are multipliers of poor behavior and provokers of ill conduct. From these come confusion, attachment, jealousy, and conflict. What do you guys think about this axiom? It's kind of a tough one.
Man, I have one word that comes to mind with this axiom, and it's temperance. When we indulge in anything, it's easy to get stuck into when something's good, doing it over and over. And indulgence breeds more indulgence and is a pathway that then can lead to self-destruction or even stagnation when we become complacent in our habits and our...
Yeah. Our counterparts thrive on these three things and a few others and put us in direct conflict with their philosophy. It really does, because they use these things as tools. I know you haven't met many of them yet, Michael, but you will. And these provokers and multipliers of ill conduct will be prevalent. What it does, it eats you up from the inside. It throws your emotions out of control. Especially when you're using these things we're talking about today for the sake of controlling everything.
Well, I think it removes clarity from our lives. Again, connection is so important. And through this, when you are seeking control, manipulation, you end up trying to create a world that agrees with your own world image, your own self-image. And you need to have balance in order to be able to receive what others are seeing, to help balance yourself out with the ebb and flow. But when we're so lost in our own demons, when we're so lost in our own struggles, and we're constantly trying to push that onto the world, our beliefs, our self-opinions, it becomes tyrannical in the end because it's not in service to others, it's in service to self, always.
So let's define this axiom a little bit. This axiom teaches that fear, desire, and passion, when uncontrolled, serve as catalysts for confusion, attachment, jealousy, conflict. But if we regulate these forces, we can avoid destructive actions, as you and I were just talking about, and align with the light or truth. This axiom is a truth teller, a clear, direct mirror held up. It's just a clear, direct mirror where you can't escape it. Here it is. It just follows you all around, right? And it's held up to our emotional selves, our emotional lives. It reveals a crucial and critical teaching of our path, that some of our most intense emotions, fear, desire, passion, are not inherently bad. We don't talk about bad emotions here. Emotions are emotions, but they are energy. Everything's energy, as we talk about. Everything is energy. There's no bad energy or good energy, as we'll talk about later today. But when these things are left unchecked and unmastered, they become multipliers of imbalance. And imbalance is something that we're always striving to defeat. We're always trying to bring ourselves somewhere here. Never perfect, but somewhere here.
I like the way you're presenting this, too, because it is energy. God, if it's left unchecked, it could control your entire life. Any one of these things, fear, desire, passion, all these things are powerful forces within our own being. And if we don't learn to sit with those emotions, to coexist with those emotions, because it's not the absence of them. They're not bad. They're good. But if we can't coexist with that in balance within our own lives, that energy will destroy us.
Yeah. It corrupts. When we talk about corruption on this show and within the teachings, it's not necessarily corruption as bad per se, but corruption as imbalance. So what this axiom is telling us is that when you don't pay attention, when you don't use discernment and awareness, things like fear become, well, and I will say when they're unaddressed, okay, when you don't stand up to them, if they're getting out of control.
Yeah.
Fear, when unaddressed, multiplies into things like avoidance, control, defensiveness. Desire amplifies craving, grasping, and disappointment. Passion, when it's without purpose and ungrounded, becomes obsession and impulsiveness and blind attachment. So these powerful emotions act as provokers, and if not put in check, they push us towards actions and thoughts and things that create confusion. And they generate unnecessary conflict and fracture our relationships, both with ourselves and others. Let's start off by talking about how fear, desire, and passion multiply poor behavior. Did you want to go first?
Yeah, no fear. I tell you what, you see it in so many. I've even struggled a lot with fear in my life, especially not learning how to feel anger.
Mm-hmm.
Fear was something that constantly came up in me and is something I still work on. And fear itself, a lot of these things you'll notice are almost like parasites in your brain.
Mm.
And once they start to root themselves, to justify themselves, they start to try to justify your own behavior and reaction, like you said, avoidance. And I've run into that when I feel fear.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as that's a survival instinct, that is not self-mastery. That is letting our survival instincts take control. It's a lot of work we talk about when we talk about regulating ourselves when we're triggered. It's being able to get triggered, feel that sense of fight or flight, and then regulating ourselves to a point where we can act. Whether that's not acting too much or acting in a way that is not shut down or fleeting.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because fear, and we'll start with fear, but fear, desire, and passion, these emotions are magnifiers. They really take the seeds of our thoughts and our beliefs and our insecurities, and it multiplies them. We've talked about before how for most of us, it's negative thought patterns that then start here, but then end up going back here, and we don't even notice them anymore. And they just multiply and multiply and multiply. And they create patterns of behavior that we oftentimes later regret.
Yeah.
So we'll start by exploring each of these, and then we'll talk about them. So when it comes to fear, and you said this perfectly, when it comes to fear whispers, and it whispers one message clearly: you are not safe. It does that. It says it over and over again. Run, 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 or fight, fight, fight. You're not safe. You're not safe. What are you doing here? Get out of here. Or, pull out all your weapons. Let's do this. When fear takes hold, rational thinking, where does it go?
Out the window.
Right out the window. Right out the window. And it narrows your perception, and it limits your options, and suddenly minor things, minor concerns, minor little annoyances feel like these huge, giant, major threats. And these really small disagreements that we have with people turn into conflicts.
Yeah. Well said.
So here's what fear multiplies into: avoidance. And that means you run from challenges instead of facing them sometimes. Control. Micromanaging life and others, micromanaging the lives of others, causing stress and resentment and all kinds of nasty stuff. Aggression, projecting your fear outward, which hurts relationships, and sometimes you end up hurting yourself or others. Defensiveness. If your fear is constantly whispering into your ear, you're not safe, you're not safe, you're not safe, you get defensive. If you're not running, you're going to stand and fight, and you feel attacked when you're not actually being attacked. And it could be somebody just simply questioning you. The more you live in fear, the more reactive your life becomes. We don't do reactive here, do we?
No. It's like, what is that phrase? It's the real power lies not between what happens to you or the response, but the space in between.
We don't react here. We respond. Respond, not react. And the more you live in fear, the more reactive your life becomes. And then eventually your relationships break down, you lose opportunities, and the trust in you and the trust you have in you, and maybe the trust you have in others, erodes and eventually vanishes. Fear doesn't just make us weak, it makes us blind.
Yeah. Well, one trend you'll see with all these, again, it's a spiral. If it hijacks you, you follow that road. It'll slowly spin your life into a place where more and more you're trying to keep yourself hidden. You're trying to lock yourself away because you're afraid of the damages in the world. I remember growing up, and I was moved schools a couple times. I was special ed. I was heavily medicated, and I struggled so much to acclimate, and I dealt with a lot of death, and there's a lot of things that sort of gave me mental health issues as a young person. But I remember one day having this epiphany of I dread getting out of bed every day. I dread socializing. I was completely socially inept in high school. You would never guess that now because I love talking to people. But it took that realization because that fear had totally taken me to a place that I lived in a shell all the time because I felt safe there, but I wasn't fulfilled in any way, shape, or form. And I was reactive. Anyone tried to talk to me, I would sort of shy away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot harder to break free from those patterns once you're that far down the hole. It's
Yeah.
possible, I promise you, but all these things need to be monitored. Again, they're not bad,
Mm-hmm.
but if they take hold,
they can lead you to doing bad things, for sure. So let's talk about desire. Desire is like the multiplier of unhealthy attachment. Would you agree?
yeah. Yeah.
Healthy desire gives us clarity and gives us direction. He was just talking about the direction you go the other way. We want to be in charge of ourselves as much as we can control. Of course, we can't control everything, but we want to control as much of our thoughts and behaviors and things as we can. So healthy desire gives us that clarity and gives us that direction. But unchecked desire becomes obsession. When you attach your happiness to specific outcomes or people or achievements or possessions, those are kind of the common ones, you're really setting yourself up for constant disappointment and really horrible frustration.
Well, another thing to look at too with this is addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, addiction, people don't decide to become addicts. Most people are like, I'll try this and I'm not going to become an addict. And then bam, there they are. And it's because of what that gives them. They crave the desire, that peace it gives them inside. Even though it's not peace, it's chaos.
Yeah.
It's what people chase. And
Mm-hmm.
desire has this thing where you do desire something, it also becomes a voice in the back of your head trying to whisper to you to get you to move towards it, to try to convince you of all the reasons you need this to.
And it embraces you. I'm the only one that cares. I'm the only one that loves you. I'm the only one that can give you what you need. Mm-hmm. And it works because we all, no matter what we say, we all love and we all crave affection. We all crave for people to appreciate us. And, we want them to accept us as we are. It's unfortunately sometimes that thing that will embrace you or that's tricking you into thinking that it's embracing you and accepting you for you are really isn't. It's really slick and it can be just destructive. So here's what desire multiplies into. And if you can think of some other ones, let me know. Jealousy. It's like we have people that I've seen already that are very resentful towards what we're trying to do. We're trying to reach out to people and share wisdom and share healing and learning. And jealousy, one of the multipliers for desire is jealousy, resenting others for what they have. Because you desire them, you may not have them, and now you're resentful. Craving, constant dissatisfaction, always chasing more. I need more. I think that goes in line with what you said about addiction. Manipulation, trying to force or control situations and people to achieve what you want. Bitterness, this lingering resentment, anger, when life does not match your perfect, absolute expectations. Can you think of any other?
Volatility kind of goes along with what you're saying with control. I see
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that they're not bad people. There's so much they want to feel like they have control over for their peace of mind. Kind of like you were saying. I mean, and I get it. I've had moments in my life where it's just like I'm trying to handle every thread that is in my life so that things go the way I want, my plans go as I want them to.
Mm-hmm.
And I get lost in it because the minute things start falling apart, the minute something interjects in those plans, I would have a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
That's an extreme way to put it, but I see this
happens.
within so many, yeah. Because it's control. It's wanting everything to go perfectly when life does not work like that.
Right.
And the volatility that comes from those moments of seeking control, it sucks.
It does suck. And it sucks watching people go through that. So the more you cling to desire, the more imbalanced you become. And I think that's probably true for all three of these. You don't think about gratitude. You don't see things clearly. Your entire peace hinges on all these external circumstances that you really have absolutely no control over. You think you do, you live under the illusion that you do, but you don't. And that's why you get bitter and jealous and volatile, as you said.
Yeah.
Desire without mindfulness, right? Mindfulness leads us away from our true center.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why it keeps coming up, but I feel like it needs mentioned at this point. And it's with people we love. So many people have this unconscious belief that other people are mind readers. And
or if they're not, they should be. You should be a damn mind reader.
You should know how I
work. Can't you see what I'm thinking? You're making me mad. Just read my mind.
Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments.
Yeah, they are.
And I mean, I was guilty of this in almost all my relationships up until I started this path, where I would just deal with blow after blow. I would think they would see how much things were affecting me, how
Mm,
upset they made me, and in
right.
turn, I would feel like they would see that and at least try to balance that out or compensate it. And that was passive aggressive as hell. It's like, I can't keep being like that.
That is
Oh,
one of my biggest pet peeves is passive aggressiveness. It stresses me out, dude. I just want to grab them their shoulders and say, listen, look at me. Just come at me, man. This is just passive aggressive stuff. Let's just get this out and get it over with.
yo.
Oh,
It's one of the beautiful things of this path, though. It's like, man, I thought that was how I had to approach my needs.
right.
And it's like, I mean, it's that self-love, because I think that was a big part of it for a lot of people listening. If you deal with passivity, it's like, there's a good chance that you don't value your needs more than you value other people's needs. And that's not
Mhm,
okay. You gotta value your needs first. And it doesn't mean be an asshole or be demanding, but it means
mhm.
have those hard conversations, be upfront and blunt. And if
Well,
the
being
person you
aggressive really, being aggressive doesn't mean being those things either. Being aggressive means to be assertive. This is my boundary. Do not cross it, you know?
yeah,
Because people do confuse assertiveness and aggressiveness with this kind of, beat everybody up type of thing. No,
no.
it just means setting forth your expectation. If you have expectations, they're not always bad expectations, but if you have them and they are designed to protect your boundaries, then you must assertively stand up, stand tall, and say, this is crossing a line.
Some people may think that that's almost a control thing.
Well, I don't know what to tell them.
Well, and I think to what you're saying too, as far as aggressive and assertiveness, I've always looked at it as a scale where you have passivity and then you have aggressive, which is like the in your face, you do what I tell you.
Right,
And
right, right,
assertiveness
right.
is the middle ground both sides seek to find.
Balance. Yeah, that
Yeah.
seems to be the core of everything we do around here. Yeah. And, some people have to learn to tone that aggressiveness down. I certainly did.
Yep.
When I was younger, I was super aggressive. Here's my boundary. But there aren't any signs, right? There's no clues. There's no hints. They would just, and if someone crossed over, it was like I was on them,
Yeah.
shaking them. Oh, what are you doing? Yeah.
Well, it's like the way.
How could you not read my mind?
So I've done a lot of research around this. In fact, the project me and my fiance are working on is around the concept of passivity and aggressive and the two
Mm,
sides.
yeah.
And it's like with aggressive people, they have two rigid boundaries. It's very much that you cross this, you die.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
And
But there is a way to come to the middle.
right, well, that's what they're working towards. And for passive
Yeah.
people, it's like the best way to describe our boundaries are those things you see in pools for lap lanes. You can swim
Okay.
under
Yeah.
it, you can push it to the
Yeah.
side.
You
It's
know it's there. You know you shouldn't, but you do. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
people just do it, and you just let them do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's not worth the battle.
And again, boundaries aren't for other people; they're for us.
They're for us. They are for us. And we should be mindful and we should be impeccable as much as possible. And that means stand firm, but be graceful. And it's a hard mix to get to sometimes, especially if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning, or you asserted your boundaries really well for a lot of people, but not for one or two. And then you're just over it. And then you're like, hey, and then you grab them, you snatch them up like the boogeyman, you know, they stepped over the line.
That was too
And-
easy to picture with you. Too easy to picture with you.
Oh,
Snapping, not that I've ever seen you.
Yeah, it just gets snatched up, maybe not even, by the Baba Yaga. It just snatches you up, dude. But there is a middle ground to all this stuff. And, a lot of people think that, and maybe not even think, they believe that many aspects of the path that we teach here on this podcast is a very passive way to live. No.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? It's they would equate some of these things to pacifists. Well, and I'll give you the perfect example. Well, a pacifist won't defend themselves physically with weapons or with whatever they have to do. A true pacifist will, but we try to do these other things first. Because we really don't want to hurt people. We don't want to get hurt either. Getting punched in the face sucks. It does.
And it doesn't resolve anything.
And it doesn't resolve anything. It just makes your knuckles sore. And then you sit around and think about, man, did I really need to do that? Or, man, it really sucks I got punched in the face. But will we go there if we have to defend ourselves and to defend others, especially in some kind of life or death, potential life or death situation, in a flash, in a second, we defend, we don't attack. And we only attack in defense. I know this sounds confusing, but do you guys understand what I'm saying? So being a pacifist doesn't mean getting pummeled into the ground or not enforcing our boundaries. We're just saying do it with mindfulness, do it with wisdom. Try those things first. You know,
Yeah,
we have
diplomacy.
diplomacy. Hey, look, bro, I don't want to get hit in the face, and neither do you, because I hit really hard. Okay, so let's just, if we can't talk this out, let's just turn around and walk opposite directions. If that's the best we could do, then that's a win. But you know, you're never gonna punch your way through everything. You know, it just doesn't happen. So passion, I call this the multiplier of impulsivity. Passion can fuel purpose, but passion without boundaries becomes impulsive chaos. And when you have passion that's ungrounded, and maybe even without purpose, it magnifies your emotion into reckless action. It propels you into that sometimes. It blinds you to those consequences. You could turn disagreements, like we were just saying, into shouting matches and fisticuffs. And now the cops are here. Now we're all getting arrested because we couldn't maybe not mind our business, or we couldn't solve this like grown ass people. So, and this really causes you to act without thinking, which is not cool.
Well, and passion is so powerful because passion, like desire, is a driving force.
Mm-hmm.
Through passion, we can discover purpose. We can create abundance. Through passion, that's how people can handle 3 jobs. Mind you, that's not what we would recommend that, because that is burning yourself out right
It
there.
does. It's hard
But
too.
yeah, passion that is ungrounded, especially in purpose,
Mm-hmm.
is something that'll lead to self-destruction in one form or another.
Yeah. Yeah. It can make you sick physically, make you sick mentally.
Yeah. It'll whisper in your ear to keep going, to keep trying,
Yeah.
to bulldoze. Like, this is the term I want to start bringing up more. We bulldoze through so much for life. What bulldoze is we're not listening to our internal compass. We're not listening to the ebb and flow of what's going on around us. We are trying to just push through and make things happen when it may not be in your best interest or anyone else's.
Right. Right. And over time, it usually isn't. You may feel like it's working. All of these, really. It may feel like it's working. Fear may feel like a friend and that it saves you from things, but none of these, when they're unchecked, none of these are your friends or your companions. They will betray you. They will, even worse than that, they'll talk you into betraying yourself.
Well said.
So passion multiplies into some of these. And if you have ones that you want to add, let me know. Impulsiveness. So impulsiveness is really just acting without wisdom. A lot of times creating these regretful outcomes. Anger, letting emotions explode uncontrollably. And anger leads to this rage monster. And then, you're punching people for absolutely no reason at this point. Blind attachment. Passion really helps us, if it's unchecked, it really helps us start to ignore red flags. And we kind of lose common sense. Now, this is something we hear all the time. Man, common sense is a superpower these days. And maybe that's true at this point because so many people out there are hustling and, like you said, working 3 jobs, and they're bulldozing, pushing their way, just pushing through everything, ignoring the flow, really pushing against the flow. And their common sense goes right out the window because it's all about the grind, the grind, the grind, the grind, the grind. And passion multiplies into conflict. It takes these little tiny things and turns them into these big, huge volcanoes.
When it narrows our vision so much, when we become so fixated on something outside of ourselves, whether it's something we're trying to obtain, somewhere we're trying to get to, we can end up being so lost and lose out on the best opportunities of our lives because we refuse to stop for a minute and be in the moment and to see what is around us.
Yeah.
I think another big issue I see, one of the most dangerous parts of passion's one of those that if you follow and you get hooked on, it puts its hooks in you. You could end up spending your whole life chasing passion. And I see a lot of people in that boat.
So when passion leads the way without mindfulness, without grounding or connection or purpose, destruction often follows. It could be physical destruction. You could just wear yourself down, as you were saying. You just get so tired. What began as good intention ends in damaged relationships or lost opportunities, emotional pain, regret. Passion without serenity becomes a wildfire instead of a guiding light.
Yeah.
So these three emotions, fear, desire, passion, as I said before, they are not negative inherently. They are signals, they're energy. They're signals indicating where we need balance or healing or realignment. But without awareness and mastery, these quickly multiply into actions and create more pain, more suffering, conflict, disharmony, all these things that don't feel good and throw us off kilter and sometimes make us feel like we're in a cage or in a really deep hole. So we really must recognize when these emotions arise. We must be aware of them and respond. Again, not with suppression, but with integration. We need to learn to integrate these things into our life mindfully so that we can be closer to that balance.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I also want to point out here, these things are not bad, but we need temperance with these things because the one thing all of these things will cost you is parts of yourself, your authenticity. The more you go down any of these rabbit holes, the more you will lose touch with who you truly are.
So let's talk about some consequences. We're going to come full circle here, I promise, but we need to understand the consequences of some of these things. So when fear, desire, and passion become unchecked multipliers, and that's really what they are. They're just multipliers. They don't just affect us internally. They ripple outward. Remember, we create waves and ripples, just like throwing a rock in a pond. And they shape our thoughts. They shape our actions. They shape our relationships, our entire, and sometimes, I think you just said it, our entire experience of life. They color them and shade them in. And they're not always great. They create these cycles. They can be patterns of negativity that, like I said, unless we recognize them and interrupt them, pause them, take a breath, take a minute, they continue to spin and reinforce themselves without your permission, without even your help. Once they get past the conscious part of us and they just come back here and they just do their thing, just automatically, right? We've talked about that before.
Well, and all things do work as patterns. It starts with just the first time trying something. Habits are so easy to create without us being aware of it. And that goes from everything from actions to thoughts. And we get dragged right down the rabbit hole the minute we start indulging ourselves in these things until it takes full hold. I like how you said how it can whisper with fear, and all these can whisper because the minute you taste something sweeter than what you know, you'll always remember it. And that tasting will constantly be calling to you.
Yeah, so let's talk about, let's talk about these consequences, as the axioms say: confusion, attachment, jealousy, conflict. Let's talk about each of these real quick. So confusion, it's like being lost in a fog, right? And all this stuff's going on. We can hear it, we can sense it, but we can't see anything because we're surrounded by confusion. The consequence of confusion: you overthink every decision. You get paralyzed by anxiety. You find yourself repeatedly unsure about which way to go. There's an axiom for that. Put that in the jar. You struggle to communicate clearly because your inner world feels just off kilter, chaotic. And confusion arises when our internal clarity is clouded by this emotional imbalance. Fear creates doubt. Desire clouds discernment. Passion distorts perception. You might feel unsure about your purpose and struggle with decisions or constantly second guessing yourself and your relationships or who you can trust. And confusion also erodes that confidence, and it can lead to anxiety, indecision, procrastination. That's one I've suffered from for a lot of my life, causing us to drift through life, just maybe getting through rather than moving intentionally.
I think confusion is such an important one to bring up because we talk often about the heart and the heart being a mind with our mind being a mind and the spirit, the mind, heart, gut connection. And these three things communicate with you to help you find guidance, to help you be aligned with your world and your best interests. And when you start drifting away from that, especially in many of these things, passion, fear, desire, you will feel a disconnect between these minds and it will be agonizing. It'll be confusing because your mind's going to try to articulate it while your heart's thinking from things from an emotional space and your gut's warning you of dangers. And a lot of people push their gut down, especially when they're bulldozing, when they're following their passion. I know when I was dealing with my attachment when we first started this, man, passion it blinded me so much to things that were so apparent now being outside of that. And it's the confusion of trying to rationalize it away that I felt, that cognitive dissonance between what I knew and what I felt, that created so much turmoil during.
Desire can cause us to be chained, imprisoned, even. And this attachment occurs when desire is no longer inspiring us and, as you said, pushing us, gently kind of moving us along towards our goals and our purpose. But it starts to imprison us instead, because we'll grab onto things and we'll cling so tightly to people, to these outcomes or things that we forgot how to feel whole without them. We feel like without these things, I'll use your word, we have a void in us. So this dependence makes us fragile. It does. It makes you fragile. And we suffer deeply when life suddenly shifts or something happens or something changes, or relationships are trying to evolve, and because we are so tightly grasped onto them, instead of evolving, they fall away from us, and that creates this chaos too. Attachment will amplify your disappointment, and it sabotages genuine love and fulfillment, as we've said many times. So here's some of the consequences of unchecked desire. You start to become anxious or jealous when your partner spends time away from you. You get devastated by small setbacks or unmet expectations, as we just said. You find it difficult to let go of past hurts, replaying disappointments over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Any ones you want to add to that?
No, but to build upon it, I mean, again, I've seen this struggle where it's just when life doesn't go according to plan, it creates such frustration in so many people. And when we try so much to control the outcomes of the life we're building, even us doing this podcast, we have aspirations and dreams for what we're trying to build with this, with our temple, with our businesses, but we're also not grasping and holding on to this vision as it has to be like this. We are allowing us to create this content, to put it out there, to see who it resonates with, to connect with people. And as much as we want it to grow and become as quick as we want, or whatever, or what we want it to become, we
Like
also
yesterday. Yeah.
we're not pigeonholing ourselves
No.
or trying to control the outcome.
No.
We may get 12 views today and 100 views tomorrow, but we're not going to be upset
Right.
if things don't go according to plan. And that takes practice and mindfulness.
Yes, it does.
Because the more we can let go and let life happen, and it doesn't mean just get knocked down left and right. Do what you can to live your best life.
Right.
When things don't go as planned, that's okay. And you got to learn to be in that state, to be in that place. A book you recommended to me, and I've read it probably 20 times now, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and there's this scene.
I love that book.
It's so good. It's so good. And
The
the
movie's
students
okay
in that
too.
book.
The movie's okay too.
It's pretty all right. Not as good as the book, but you know what? It's one of the better adaptations.
The
But
book's better though, like
but
always.
he's spending time with that one of the other students, one of the past students, and his business catches on fire, his home and business, and they're standing outside and they're watching it burn, and he's looking at his protege just like, why are you not upset? It's like, it's fine. It's caught on fire, it's burning. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yep.
What would being upset do about this? That chapter sticks out in my mind so often. It was just like, you see the world burning and it's like, that sucks. It's horrible. It's sad.
It really does.
But also, there's nothing I can do to make this better.
And there's plenty of time to be upset and grieve later. But in the moment, it doesn't do any good. It doesn't help. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's not necessarily numbing yourself to bad things.
Right.
Allow yourself to feel those emotions, but don't allow yourself to become those emotions.
Absolutely. And that's really the point of this whole show today, right? It is to accept these emotions, but don't become them. So jealousy, this is when you compare yourself to others constantly, you are drinking poison. It's just taking it like a shot at a time. Jealousy is when desire gets distorted and twisted into something ugly and not good for you. It's a sign that you've forgotten your own inner worth. Comparing your journey against others. Remember, we always say this is not a race. Stop comparing yourself to other athletes. And when it's unchecked, it creates serious bitterness, serious resentment, and a lot of insecurity. And it just rips the joy right out of you, and it poisons you and your relationships with other people.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the important things is jealousy isn't a bad thing to feel. Let jealousy tell you what it needs to tell you. you're in a situation where you feel jealous, ask yourself, am I being petty? Am I being controlling? Or is
Yeah.
this message trying to tell me that my worth is being pushed down upon? And it doesn't mean anyone should worship you, spouses included.
That's right.
But it does mean you should be treated with respect and decency, which I know
Mhm.
I've run into. And like you said, it's a matter of self-worth, because I think that was one of my biggest issues with jealousy, is the way I was treated in the past. And I felt those moments of jealousy. That was a signal that I needed to evaluate my place in that relationship.
Yeah.
And often that's the important thing with jealousy. It's not telling you that you need to control things more on the outside. You need to
Right.
control yourself better.
Yeah.
You need to figure
her
out.
grip tighter.
Yeah.
Well, and we even start comparing how, and siblings are a good example of this, but even spouses versus children. Sometimes your spouse will treat your children better than they treat you sometimes, or you think they are. Or siblings are always fighting for that next notch up towards mom or dad.
We've all been guilty of it.
And every single one of us. Or we have friends that we see them getting treated better by our other group of friends better than us. Or we think that they are. Sometimes it is true, but sometimes it's not. It's just something that we're going through. So, that kind of stuff, if you let it go unchecked, remember, emotions are messengers. That's all they are. They signal to us that, hey, you pay attention. This is about to go south quick. So stop, pay attention, and let's pause for a second and figure. Like, I need you to pay attention to me, because this is about to blow up in our face. Whatever it is, pay attention. Like you said, and jealousy is one of those signals that we may be living under this assumption or this illusion that this person is being treated better than they are. But if you ever ask any parent, they'll tell you, I love all my kids equally. I have no favorites, and that may be true or not true. And the hierarchy of these children might be dictated by how good or bad they're being that day. I don't know. Some days this one's the favorite, and some days that one's the favorite. But, if you live under this assumption that everybody loves this person more than you, and you let that take hold, you're going to get really bitter, and you're going to get really, really, it's going to get painful for you.
I think it ties into one of the most important concepts we bring up on this podcast, and that's perception. All these things will taint your perception. It's easy to see things through the lens of injustice, especially towards yourself. And there's times where it is that. But it's up to us to discern what is reality, what is the picture outside of ourselves, and what is this being shown through the eyes of our ego.
Right.
We're talking about when we get in our heads and we start to create those stories.
Thank you.
That's what this is all about, because that's what we're so good at, and that's what these things lead to. Again, they're little viruses that go in our brain, and they start telling us these stories. And the minute we start identifying with these stories is the minute when our lives start to fall apart. And that's when we truly do lose control.
Yeah.
Even though we feel like we're gaining it.
So when do you ask for clarity?
Give an example.
If you feel like you are in a spot where you feel jealous of a situation, or you feel discriminated or mistreated in any way, when do you ask for clarity to get the proof that it's just in your mind?
I feel one of the big things we got to do is... Now, you go ahead, Justin. I'd love to hear what you have to say on this.
Well, I was just going to say, you need to start with that internal conversation.
But what if your internal is...
Okay, let me work through this. You need to start with that internal conversation to say, is this actual fear? Is this actual injustice? You have to run through that, right? And try to be as real to yourself as you can. Really take yourself through this internal dialogue first. And then if you come to the conclusion, do it in a calm way. Don't do it when you're amped up. Don't do it when, you just got into a fight or something. Once you've had that calm conversation with yourself, then it's time to decide, because where do I escalate this to? It depends on where you're at. It depends on what's going on, right? So if you've decided that, yes, this is happening, I have confirmed it with myself, I did it in a state of calm, and yes, this and this and this and this are happening to me. So now you have to decide who to escalate it to. And it depends on where you're at. If you work for a really small company, you may not have anybody to go to except for the government or the town government or the county government or something. But you have to keep that. The best way forward is to make sure that you keep that level of calm going forward, because people, if something's actually happening to you, you will find the evidence you need. You will find who to talk to, and maybe eventually you go to court or something. But and this could go a million different ways depending on where you're at and what kind of thing it is. If it's a relationship, who do you complain to, right?
Well,
You don't,
that's
right?
what I'm saying. How do you find the evidence if you have that physical feeling and you've already worked through all those steps?
What?
How do you get information that you actually need to confirm that you are not just going crazy?
Michael?
Well, I think this whole conversation is a good one. I mean, again, often these things in our minds will start to create stories, and especially when they're centered around fear, especially in attachment. Those stories can become loud real quick because we all of a sudden don't feel that certainty we once did because a voice in our mind is telling us there isn't that certainty. And so I think Justin hit the nail on the head for the first step, which is to, once you feel that state of fear, that triggered state, bringing yourself back down to baseline, nervous system regulation, breathing, mindfulness, whatever. Get yourself back where your body's not amped up. And you can tell your heart rate will slow down. You're not going to be hyperventilating, which that's the extreme side of things. But that's what the point of this is it brings us back to a baseline, because our frontal lobe starts to shut down. Once we get into that, once we are triggered into that state, our logical thinking shuts down and our emotional brainstem takes control. And that drives our decisions, our thoughts, our behaviors. So once you bring yourself to a baseline, you can write, I would recommend journaling. You write out what it is you're thinking, but then ask yourself, what is it that proves this to me? Because the most important thing we can fight these kind of things in our mind with are facts. Because with facts, we can then find outcomes. Because again, we have this confusion, this distortion going on between the heart and the mind. The mind is analytical, and the mind can help you find reasoning. But when those two are in conflict, your heart's going to be throwing out one thing, your mind's going to throw you out something completely different, and they're going to fight, and it's just going to grow into something obsessive in your mind, and it can consume you. I've been there.
We all have, really.
Yeah. And the important thing we can do is, often it's a conflict between what we know and what we feel. So the more we can discern what is real, the more we can start basing our feelings around that. Because often that conflict comes from us wanting to feel, whether it's persecutory or in denial, depending on what side of this it's swinging. It's trying to root itself in the feelings you're having and just rationalizing those feelings through, what's the word I'm looking for? Through creations in your mind. Yeah.
People out there, because a lot of people, including myself, I've dealt with a lot of this. I still do at times, but sometimes we go through those steps and then we're looking for those facts, right? To prove that we're not crazy and that and our gut is actually on point. Okay. And what if you ask somebody in your job and they're like, yeah, you're full of it. Ha ha ha. That's not happening. So then what? And then you leave or your work or a relationship and you find out I was actually right.
Okay.
Or I was completely wrong because nobody wanted to give me the facts.
Well, I think another important thing that people, myself included, especially before I started this journey, when we have these sensations happen with our body, hormones are released. And depending on the type of situation is the type of hormones that are released. Often people don't know how to interpret the signals their body is telling them. So, for instance, the same hormones for when your life is in danger, you're being stalked by a predator, those same emotions are the exact same emotions you have when you feel excitement when you're on a roller coaster or you're skydiving or you just met someone who gives you butterflies. Same hormones. See, you're a natural at this. You're a natural at this.
No, not really, but that's okay. I get a little camera shy, sorry. But yeah, no, I was just questioning because, that's just things that I've dealt with over my time and still do. I'm not saying I don't, because I still work on it every single day. So,
as do we all.
I'm right there with you. Yeah. Nah, there's so many times I got to sit down and discern. It's like, Is what my mind trying to tell me what my mind's trying to tell me, or am I being logical about this? It's like that one situation with someone I love that is going through a horrible spell of addiction and just all this stuff going on. And I've had to distance myself from that relationship. And is this fear dictating me, or is this logic? Is this the right course of action? And it's very difficult.
Did that take care of what you were saying?
Throw on the spot like that.
Well, I got really pretty after all of a sudden, didn't I? So there's something that I'm fond of saying, and Michael has heard this before, and you've probably heard it just in the background of our life together. Yeah, trust your feelings, trust your gut, but in consultation with your mind, as he was saying, trust your feelings, but make sure that you have some kind of reality, meet reality where it's at with your feelings. Because, and that doesn't always work. That doesn't always, take care of the answers you seek, but also don't force the answers at the same time. We come back to, there's a way to balance this stuff.
There's an axiom for that.
There's a few.
You owe me $2.
But, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're wrong. It doesn't matter if you're right. It really doesn't matter, because you went through this whole process. And if you were wrong, that's a teacher. That's a lesson. If you were right, well, I don't know if you go like that or something.
No.
I don't know. I don't concern myself with being right or wrong. I just concern myself with trying to be as truthful as possible.
Well, and that's the key right there, because one of the
Sometimes I'm wrong. So,
well, not
one
everybody.
of the big issues with this, when we run into these issues where we're having a disconnect between our thinking and our gut and heart talking to us, is often because what's blocking us isn't even the analysis we have as much as it is us trying to rigidly hold on to an opinion or belief.
There you go.
That is blocking us from truth.
Definitely axioms for that.
You guys both owe me money.
Put it on our tab. So, and the last one, conflict. This is really an outer manifestation of what's happening inside, the chaos, the turmoil. Conflict emerges when... What's that?
As above, so below.
Yeah, absolutely. Conflict emerges when fear and desire and passion collide externally. And this takes us through these arguments that become blown out of proportion. You guys ever dealt with a lot of tension around you because, there's a lot of turmoil going on? Passive aggressiveness, as we talked about earlier. These all kind of arise from this mismanagement of these powerful emotions. I like to build bridges here, don't I? I was talking about bridge to this, bridge to that. Instead of building bridges, you build barriers, walls. We talked about before in another episode where boundaries are lines. Healthy boundaries are lines. You can still see into the horizon. You can see all the things around you. When boundaries are unhealthy, they become barriers, walls. You can't see through them. People can't see into you. And you're kind of, prisonered away from everyone else. Instead of creating harmony, you invite drama. I do not like drama. I say it all the time, drama.
Okay.
Conflict consumes your energy. It distracts you from what really matters.
Well,
And one thing I want to point out with this is, I know me personally, I struggled with a lot of these things for most of my adult life. I'm watching people in my life now that I love that are going through these kind of things. And when you spend your life only knowing these heightened energies, it takes a lot to train yourself to not want these energies, to learn to calm them. Like we were talking about regulation earlier, it feels foreign when you first start doing the work because it's not natural. And as much as you can tell, you feel a lot better when you're at peace instead of in hypervigilance. It's not going to feel good to your body because your body craves what it knows, even if it's not healthy.
Yeah. Well, that segues into kind of a path to mastery, which mastery takes forever, like literally your whole life. You're always mastering yourself and always mastering your things, but this will get you started. We've talked about how fear, desire, passion, if left unchecked and ungrounded, multiply confusion, attachment, jealousy, and conflict. But Michael, there's good news. You want to hear the good news?
What's the good news?
The good news. These same powerful emotions can become your greatest teacher and your greatest ally once you learn to start integrating them, right?
It's the shadow, right?
That's the good news, the shadow. The path to mastery isn't about eliminating any of these things. Not eliminating fear, not eliminating your desire or your passion. Those things can be powerful tools to help you not just find purpose eventually, but then to fuel that purpose and to
stand in that purpose.
Yeah, and live your life in a way that you feel fulfilled. It's not about eliminating. It's about transforming. Alchemy. Oh, we need to get alchemy in here somewhere. Alchemy. It's about transforming those energies into constructive forces. It's about responding rather than reacting. It's about aligning these energies, right?
Yeah.
And having clarity, purpose, and ultimately the light within. Had to use the title in there somewhere. You see how I did that? It was clever.
Magic.
I thought it was clever. It probably wasn't that clever. So let's talk about how mindfulness, self-awareness, and emotional regulation help us transform these energies into something that is working against us and now into something that works with us.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Your favorite one, and it's a good one. It's a powerful one. Mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches us to observe. Not just here, maybe. Here, all the senses. In the moment. Observed. It helps us observe what's happening inside and out. But we're talking about kind of the inside stuff today. So mindfulness here teaches us to observe what's happening, the triggers, the things spinning out of control inside without reacting, without immediate reaction, without a knee-jerk reaction. Most times when we hear the word trigger, we think, bang. Well, that's what happens when we don't master ourselves. It is like a bang, because once we get triggered, then we go into action. Either we run, we fight, we lose it, or we do whatever. But mindfulness allows us to notice our emotions without judgment. This kind of paves the way to let us make better, wiser decisions.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's just like you're saying, with mindfulness, the more you practice it, the more you can allow these things to come up. So many of us operate from these unconscious programs that when these feelings arise in our body, we do have instant reactions. But the point of this, again, is not to become the feelings, but to acknowledge them, to see them. And with mindfulness, you will notice these sensations come up. Even if it takes only a second for them to appear, you will be able to see them come up and not let them drive, but allow them to be the passenger that tells you what you are feeling and what you're going through.
They are messengers, and mindfulness will help you see that. So when fear rises up, mindfulness says this: I notice fear, but I am not fear, as you just said. When desire becomes attachment, mindfulness says, I see this craving, but it does not control me. When passion turns impulsive, mindfulness again gently reminds us, I feel this intensity, but I choose how to express it. At the end of the day, mindfulness interrupts emotional reactivity. It restores choice. As you just said, it restores choice. It returns your power back to where it belongs. You in the driver's seat. Not those things.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next one is self-awareness. Self-awareness, super important in everything we do. Self-awareness helps us uncover the roots behind our emotions. What's causing it? What's I need to explore, why am I feeling this way? And a couple of ways you could do that. Why do I feel afraid? Or what am I truly desiring? You know, a lot of times we get too far into what we think we desire, what we think we want. Everybody has a type, but then it turns out you marry somebody who's not even anywhere near the type of person you thought you needed or wanted. She doesn't even look anywhere like... She is the perfect example of this. I had a type before I met her, and she didn't check any of those boxes. But she checks all the boxes clearly because we've been here now for a long time. Is my passion grounded in truth? By asking these questions, you start to become aware of the patterns and the habits, really, the habits that are driving you, that may be steering for you sometimes when you're not paying attention. Self-awareness takes that emotional chaos and turns that into toward whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
I mean, often with self-awareness, so often when we are triggered, and I'm not necessarily talking about someone slaps you in the face and now I'm triggered. That is not being triggered. That is, whoa, hold on.
That's abuse. You need to stand up for yourself. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
But when you run into a situation that puts you into that state, especially when it's something small, with self-awareness, you can then evaluate it. Be like, where is this emotion coming from? What part of my past is this resonating with?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I started riding a motorcycle over the last couple of years. Something I never thought I would do. But when I first started, it was the most horrifying thing for me. And it's just, why does this overwhelm me so much?
Mm-hmm.
And you begin to realize that I look back at my past. My mom, she bought me a bicycle. I took it out twice. The second time I went on the road. And she got me off there. She said, I'm going to kill myself. Someone's going to drive down there, hit me. And she took it away and put it away forever. And from that, I was always afraid to ride anything with two wheels, especially in the street. And it took awareness for me to be like, this is what's going on within me.
Yeah.
And then being able to face that trigger with me being, I am not in danger right now. I am feeling the danger I felt then from the fear that was planted in me.
Emotional regulation. Mastering the inner balance. Emotional regulation is the ability to manage our emotional energy skillfully, mindfully, being aware of. It's not suppression. Again, it's integration. You transform. Let's see if you can guess what we alchemize our rough ones into good ones, right? I know I shouldn't say bad, good or bad, but when you do this properly, Michael, what do we turn fear into?
Wisdom?
Courage.
Courage!
You're into courage. And you have quoted this many times. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action with fear still being present. It's choosing trust and faith and aligned action, even when you're not sure, when you're uncertain. What does desire turn into? Aspiration. Desire is aspiration, yeah. Aspiration is desire that's been kind of grounded. And I won't say purified, but you know what I mean. It's driven by purpose, by clarity, by intention, not attachment. You know, let go, let go. You become motivated by growth and service and some authentic goals, more realistic, authentic type goals. What does passion turn into?
Purpose was going to be my guess.
Purpose, yes, you got it, purpose. Although you can have passion for purpose, a passion with purpose, but really this kind of chaotic passion, this ungrounded, this unchecked, unbalanced, turns into actual purpose. It becomes purpose when it's focused through wisdom and discernment and mindfulness and awareness. Purpose-driven passion is sustainable, right? We don't get burnt out like you were saying earlier. It's clear. It's more balanced. No such thing as perfect balance, but it's more balanced. It inspires us without burning us out, setting us on fire. Any thoughts there?
It's easy to confuse purpose with desire. This is something I struggled with a lot, where I was so determined to find purpose that I would make purpose out of anything I desired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good point.
And so purpose will come to you naturally. When you are in flow, you are in purpose. When you feel like you're battling the world and yourself, when you feel like you're pulling teeth trying to accomplish something, which there will be moments on any path, but
Right.
you will feel the distant difference between that anxiety in your chest while you're trying to start something and the burnout you feel shortly after beginning. Purpose is something that will carry you beyond that.
Yeah.
After the excitement stage and on to more.
Mhm.
It'll make fear and those emotions much more digestible because purpose will be worth more than the struggles you have chasing it.
And you'll come back closer to center more easily each time, eventually. And sometimes even those of us who found our purpose, living in flow and are fueled by grounded passion, grounded desire, sometimes we hit a wall too, as you said.
Yeah.
But we come back on track a little faster. And you will too, the more you practice this stuff. So this
And
is
it's
my
not
final...
bad to go out there, just before you move on to the next part, is when you are discovering passion, what you're passionate about, it's okay to go out there and pursue different things and see what happens. I had 4 different entrepreneurial ventures before deciding to pursue a path of coaching and now this podcast. But each one of those endeavors, whether they were short-lived or something I was fighting with all I could to try to make it work, there were lessons I learned within each of those. I remember my first time trying to get into designing websites for small mom and pop restaurants. And man, that's when I realized I had a lot of work to do to get into sales.
Yeah.
It made me realize that I had to value my worth and what I was providing when I went to approach people with stuff. So again, look for the lessons and don't judge yourself for your journey. Everything has lessons, and every lesson can be harnessed as something to help you become more and more authentic.
Yes, well said. This path to mastery is really a path of freedom. It's not perfection, though, but it's awareness, intention, and again, aligned action. We want to be aligned. We want to be whole, holistic. Fear, desire, and passion, again, they're not your enemies. They are powerful energies, and they're just waiting for you to decide how you're going to do them and harness them. They can take you down this road, or they could help you evolve into who you really are authentically. When you learn to master these things, they stop multiplying chaos more and more and more the further along you go, as we just said. And instead of multiplying this chaos, they will multiply clarity, balance, and harmony. This is really the heart of our path, is this alchemy to transform darkness, unbalanced, into light, into truth, emotion into mastery, and chaos into harmony. Again, your emotions are messengers, and when they're giving you a really hard lesson, they become your teachers. Master them, and they will become your greatest allies.
I saw this really powerful video that I always try to think about when I'm going through hard times. And there was this guy who was a CEO, and anytime his employees went to him with a problem, hey, this is late, this isn't gonna work out. And it's just like, good, good. And it's treating each obstacle in your life as a good thing, because you either live a little or you learn a little.
Yeah. Every ascended master and teacher that any of us can think of had lots and lots and lots of teachers. Every single one of them did. They did. Lots of teachers. And you have lots of teachers in your life too. You just got to look at them that way, and you have to apply their wisdom and just get a little better every day.
Yeah.
Our exercise for the day. Reflect on a recent moment, or as recent as you can, when fear, desire, or passion influenced your behavior. And influence your behavior in kind of this chaotic way that we've been talking about today. Ask yourself, what triggered this emotion? How did it affect my actions or decisions? And what could I have done to regulate it more effectively? And then try to write down a strategy. Just one. We always start with one. Do one thing first. Write down one strategy that you can use to navigate these emotions the next time they come up. And because they will keep coming up until you start to integrate with them. Our affirmation for the day. I master my emotions with awareness and balance. I transform fear, desire, and passion into clarity, strength, and purpose. Our journaling prompt. Reflect on how fear, desire, or passion has multiplied poor behavior in your life. What have you learned from these experiences, and how can you apply that wisdom to future situations? Our listener question of the day. How have you managed fear, desire, or passion to prevent poor behavior? Share your story of transformation using #MasterYourEmotions. Great show today, guys. Appreciate your
insight. It really was, though. I love this topic.
Did you have anything before we go?
As we talk about this work you're doing and learning to identify these things in your life, it's all about practice. There is no perfectionism. Meet yourself where you're at and work with yourself where you're at, because that's how you succeed.
Fear, desire, and passion are multipliers of poor behavior and provokers of ill conduct. From these come confusion, attachment, jealousy, and conflict. This encapsulates the profound truth about the detrimental influence of fear, desire, and passion when left unchecked. Indeed, these powerful emotions can amplify poor behavior and incite ill conduct. I am peaceful and serene even in the face of danger and strife. The nature of fear is quite simple to understand. It is dangerous, slippery, and cunning, as it lurks within the shadows like a scavenger waiting to feed on the mind, the heart, and the soul. Chaos, yet harmony. Fear has many consorts with human nature, yet it is no friend or ally to any universal or cosmic power. If someone thinks that it is fear that renders aid or comfort from time to time while one walks the road of life, they are mistaken. We must not confuse fear with caution. For every obstruction or challenge fear seems to help one avoid or negotiate ever so subtly, it erodes our confidence and perseverance as it corrupts our logical and reason and creates disharmony with Ashla. Fear, anger, and hate are precursors to doubt, confusion, envy, and suffering. Do not let these influence nor dictate your interactions and dealings. To do so is to be aligned with darkness. And any alliance forged out of fear, anger, or hate is a tenuous one. Emotion, yet peace. We cannot do away with our emotions, and nor should we, because we are patient and calm. Within this state of being, I'm at my best. And as you become one with the philosophy and practice of Ashla, the shadows of fear, confusion, attachment, and conflict will no longer be your burden. For peace and serenity, patience and calm, compassion and kindness, harmony and balance will become the travelers you walk with. In recognizing their potential to provoke destructive behaviors, we can strive to harness these emotions in service of positive and virtuous actions, fostering inner harmony and harmonious relationships with ourselves and others. We love you guys so very much. Thank you so much for joining us. With love and gratitude, ad lucem.
I'd lose